Now let's see different types of hypervisor. So we have generally two type of hypervisor. The first type of hypervisor is called type 1 hypervisor. It is also called a bare metal or native hypervisor. Type 1 hypervisor are deployed directly over the host operating system, host hardware, sorry. So this hypervisor is deployed in the host hardware. It is also known as native hypervisor or bare metal hypervisor. Direct access to the hardware without any underlying operating system. So hypervisor will use directly the hardware without using any underlying operating system or device driver. Make such hypervisor highly efficient for enterprises computing. So this type of hypervisor is very much, it says that it is very much useful because it is highly efficient. The implementation is also inherently secure against operating system level vulnerability. VMware, ESXi, Microsoft Hypervisor V, Oracle VM, Zen are example of type 1 hypervisor. So these are some product developed by different companies, which are the different types of hypervisors available. So as you can see that the underlying hardware will be underlying with the underlying hardware, the hypervisor are going to communicate, are going to use that particular hardware without using any operating system on it. Now, what is the advantage? Such kind of hypervisor are very efficient because they have direct access to the physical hardware resources like CPU, memory, network, physical storage. This cause the empowerment of empowerment the security because there is nothing any kind of third party resources so that attack couldn't be compromised this with anything. So because of this particular architecture, as you can see, there is nothing in between the hypervisor and this hardware. So the attack is very difficult. And if we have any third party applications which is making the interface between this hypervisor and the underlying hardware, so there might be the bugs in that particular application, right? So that is the advantage here. What is the problem? One problem with type 1 hypervisor is that they usually need a dedicated separate machine to perform its operation and to instruct different virtual machine and control the host hardware resources. So definitely, if there is nothing in between the hypervisor and the system hardware, so it is going to control the whole hardware by itself, right? As well as we require the dedicated separate machine for it without the underlying operating system. So this is the disadvantage of type 1 hypervisor. Now let's see the type 2 hypervisor, which is called hosted hypervisor. The host operating system runs on the underlying host system. So there is a host operating system which is running in the host system. It is also known as hosted hypervisor. Such kind of hypervisor doesn't run directly over the underlying hardware. Rather, they run on an application in the host system physical machine. So this is a physical machine. On top of it, we have the operating system of that particular physical machine. And then top of it, we have the hypervisor. So now there is no connection between the hypervisor and the hardware directly. So hypervisor will communicate with the operating system and operating system will communicate with the hardware. Hypervisor asks the operating system to make hardware calls. Example of type 2 hypervisor include VMware players or parallel desktop. Hosted hypervisors are often found in endpoint like PCs. The type 2 hypervisor is very useful for engineers, security analysts for checking malware or malicious source code and newly developed applications. So These are the usefulness of type 2, but still there is the issues. KVM, VMware server and workstation, Microsoft Virtual PC, then we have Oracle VM VirtualBox, and QEMU are some popular type 2 hypervisor. So this type 2 hypervisor actually we use, let's say I use. What I do is I have this hardware. This hardware is developed by Apple, and I have this host operating system, which is that particular Mac operating system by the Apple, and I'll use any of these. So I'll use this parallel desktop hypervisor here. This parallel desktop hypervisor is creating a guest operating system, which is Ubuntu. So I have this Ubuntu in my operating system. So my host operating system is Mac, right? And this Ubuntu has been used with the parallel. So this is the parallel desktop hypervisor that I'll use. Okay. See, parallel desktop app, right? So this parallel desktop app will is in which Ubuntu operating system has been installed. So this is example of type 2 hypervisor. But for type 1 hypervisor, we need a dedicated hardware, right? That will be that in that we have the hypervisor installed without any operating system. What is the advantage? Such kind of hypervisor allow quick and easy access to the guest operating system alongside the host machine running. These hypervisor usually come with additional useful feature for guest machine, right? Such tool enhance the coordination between the host machine and the guest machine. So for the PCs and all, it is very much useful. What is the disadvantage? Here, there is no direct access to the physical hardware resources, so the efficiency of these hypervisor lags in performance as compared to the type 1. So the performance is the issue because the hypervisor is not directly communicating with the hardware. And potential security risks are also there because anything will be there in that particular operating system, host operating system. Security weaknesses will be there, then it will be an issue. If there is access to the host operating system, so he can also access the guest operating system. So this if the malicious code is there in that particular host operating system, so that particular code can come to the guest operating system also. So this is the problem that we are facing. First of all, there is no direct access to the hardware, underlying hardware. Second thing is security. If the virus is coming here, it can move to the guest operating system also.